Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this new webinar of Digital Regions, a new video in which we are, in this case, tackling the test before invest for digital transformation topic, in which we are going to talk about living labs as tools for the integration of artificial intelligence and big data into the European digital innovation hubs. This is going to be a very, very interesting session. And we have received a lot of interest from our colleagues, and please keep a lot of attention and let us keep in contact afterwards. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Fernando Vilariño, Associate Director at Computer Vision Center and Associate Professor at Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona in Catalonia, Spain. I teach machine learning, so I'm very much linked to artificial intelligence, also robotics, and open innovation. I had the pleasure to be the former president of the European Network of Living Labs, and I'm currently working on as a member of ENOL's the executive board. For that reason, it is going to be it's going to be a pleasure to me to introduce Living Labs in this session. I am very much interested in the social impact of artificial intelligence, and I'm developing this concept as the role of coordination in the Living Labs of Regulatory Learning Tools joint working group together with the Joint Research Center. I'm very happy to be today with you, and in order to provide a little bit of context to the webinar that we're going to have, let us in some way describe which is the DT4 regions. The DT4 region is a preparatory action from the European Parliament supported with European funds that aims at creating a platform that is aimed at supporting the work of the European civil servants in the context of artificial intelligence and big data. One of the most needed actions are related to capacity building and to the development of the mutual learning community or mutual learning communities for our European public servants in artificial intelligence and big data. And this action, this specific video, is one of those contributions that we aim at tackling to increase the knowledge and to provide bibliographic materials and to provide also a bit of training as an entry point for Living Labs into the European digital innovation hubs. This is what we are aiming at, and hopefully to create also a community of people interested in this topic. Beyond that, we are having a larger, a midterm topic in which, or horizon, in which is linking the DT4 regions platform and actions together with the livingin.eu. The livingin.eu declaration is a political declaration. You can check it into the website, and in which mayors and representatives from regions and other stakeholders are joining forces in order to boost and sustain solutions in artificial intelligence and big data. This is very relevant because this would in some way underpin the possibility of creating interoperable solutions in AI. These interoperable solutions allow for connecting the dots and also the different implementations that we are having between cities, between regions, etc. And this would allow to unleash the power of the European data and algorithms in order to serve better our citizens together with our citizens. And this is the approach. So after the lifetime of the DT4 Regions project, we are aiming that all the results that we are having can be translated or linked in order to be integrated in the livingin.eu declaration and other initiatives. In this context, today, we're going to talk about one of the instruments that we are having at the European level, which is the European Digital Innovation Hubs. The digital innovation hubs were identified by the European Commission as these regional areas for supporting the SMEs, for supporting the industrial and small and medium companies to get injected with technology, to get injected with digital transformation, to allow to step up into a higher level of technological improvement. This has been consolidated in the region in the recent years.
Fernando, sorry, let me stop you because you have been muted. I don't know why, but
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much for telling.
Thank you.
Where was I muted?
Just a
in the
couple of
recent
seconds
years.
ago. Yeah.
Good, fantastic. Please don't mute me because I have to have the introduction for that. So in the recent years, we have been implementing this approach to the digital innovation hubs with two different actions. The first action is the seal, the certification for regional digital innovation hubs, sales of excellence. And in addition to that, we have the funded European Digital Innovation Hubs under the Digital Europe program. These are official European Digital Innovation Hubs into our catalog. Particularly in the context of AI, this has been integrated into different actions. For instance, the Digital Innovation Hub AI, in which we're having a number of open calls for solutions and challenges in which artificial intelligence can be, as expected, to be implemented. Again, we have to keep in mind that this is an SME-driven approach. Digital innovation hubs are in order to support the SMEs, in order to enhance their technological capacities. And here the approach is to develop these experiments, to develop this experimentation and this exploration. So from this perspective, we start with one of the tools that we are going to explain today and that we are going to discuss with our colleagues today. The other tool and the other ingredient that we're going to explain or to develop are living labs. For those who are not familiar with living labs are about innovation. They are open innovation ecosystems. And you will see that there is a very clear link that we can establish between the living lab approach and the digital innovation hubs. These are citizen-centric innovation approaches with a multi-stakeholder implementation based on a systematic user co-creation approach that integrates research and innovation activities in our communities. It is important to identify that we approach it through a 4-helix or multiple helix approach in which government, industry, people, citizens, and academia are present. And these are the multiple helix approach, because in addition to these 4 ingredients, we can add other ingredients such as sustainability, territory, etc. Right? So this quadruple helix approach is evolved into a multiple helix approach. But basically, these are the 4 basic ingredients: government, industry, people, and academia, in order to solve the challenges that one institution cannot solve by itself. Then we can identify also basic features related to living labs. The first one, which differentiates living labs from other approaches to open innovation, are the real-life settings. Real-life settings meaning hospital, school, a specific place in which a real-life activity is happening. It has also co-creation processes, as we were mentioning before, and since it's happening in real-life settings, we have active user involvement. So it's user-centric innovation. Since we are having also this multiple helix approach, we are expected to have multiple methodological approach for this multi-stakeholder participation and an orchestration action that will in some way implement this living lab approach. So this is a general element, and you will see specific examples of living labs, but let us try now to find out which is the link between this general approach to living labs and what we have been speaking about, the digital innovation hubs. First of all, let's go for the identification of the different components that we are having in this living lab approach. Remember the quadruple helix and also the features that we are having for the living labs, starting for the co-creation. This co-creation process of these four elements, these four actors, government, industry, academia, and people, different types of stakeholders are developing a joint challenge through a co-creation process that is happening in this real life setting. And in this real life, not in vitro, not happening within a specific lab, which is close to the rest of the users, but happening with citizens and with actual users. This implies that there is an active approach for user involvement. That means that here users, citizens are not just the object of research, but are the elements that allow data and research to happen about their actions. They are not all studied, they are participating in the process of innovation. So if we're having a new product or service, because Living Labs are about innovation in a real life setting, this is the exact point in which we can apply the test before invest approach. And this is crucial because the test before invest approach allows us to develop and to evolve, to increase the TRL, to test and validate the process, to increase the maturity of the innovation before going on to different rounds for investment in order to deploy a mature product. And it is happening through the active user involvement, so it's much suited to the space, to the interactions that are affecting their final users. And this test before invest approach is very much linked to the Digital Innovation Hub approach. The Digital Innovation Hub vision for Europe is to allow the SMEs to develop, to increase the maturity of the technological approach before further investments are happening. So this provides us with a very interesting approach for the multi-stakeholder participation, the multi-method approach that we have identified before, and then it opens the market of the alignment with a systemic approach to innovation. So since we're having all the stakeholders in the ingredients, since we're having a multi-methodological approach to the development of new products and services, we can tackle the innovation process from a systemic approach. Systemic approach meaning that the innovation in the test before invest would affect potential changes in all the stakeholders that are participating in this process. Okay, how is this happening? Now, definitely regarding industries and SMEs, what we are having is the possibility of providing new products and services through this test before invest approach. In the context of the academia, we can participate in this multi-stakeholder approach in order to generate new knowledge. Universities and research centers are aimed at creating new research, and this research to be the starting point for innovations to happen, knowledge generation. In the case of the participation of citizens, the idea is to identify, as I was mentioning before, user-centric needs and opportunities. Not only needs, also opportunities for the specific regional communities, local and supralocal approaches. And finally, for the government, this allows for public procurement and regulatory adaptation. Look that this provides a systemic approach, meaning that for new products and services that are happening in this test before invest approach can allow also in order to adapt the regulation, the regulatory framework, in order to make possible that the innovations are taking all the best. Also to identify public-private procurement that can be launched in order to develop these final products and services that are obtained through knowledge generation created by the academia and underpinned by user-centric needs and opportunities. So this is the general approach for this test before invest in the concept of the Living Labs. So now we are going to have the chance to speak about specific examples, but let me get back a moment. This would be the final picture, right? The picture that we are going to try to identify today, to develop before the test before invest, and to link it to the digital hubs. But definitely there are a number of things that we can work in here. And if you want to know more about living labs, I strongly recommend you to contact and to address yourself to the knowledge materials of the European Network of Living Labs. You will find here a large bibliographical approach to activity reports, publications from the European Network of Living Labs, living lab methodologies and tools, toolkits, the results of the conference on Open Living Lab Days, policy briefs that are being co-created together with our colleagues of the European Commission and other institutions, research papers, etc., etc. So there is a huge amount of documentation that you can get used to, and you can go step by step also from the publications of panel. And definitely you can also attend the Open Living Lab Days conferences that we will have, particularly in September. Okay, this provides us with a general approach to the topics that we are going to deal with today. On the one hand, the digital innovation hubs, the hubs for the companies, and on the other hand, the living lab approach, the citizen-centric approach for feeding these tests before invest. And for that reason, we're counting with two panels, with a panel of experts that I will share with two of our colleagues. First of all, Andra Tanaza. Andra, hello.
Hello.
Hello, thank you very much. Welcome. Green and Digital Strategies of Transylvania, IT. We also have Josep Maria Salanova Grau, which is Associate Researcher at CERT. Josep, hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Josep. Thank you very much for coming along with us. And then I will also have the chance to present a specific approach from the Catalan ecosystem. But now I think that after this general introduction to digital innovation hubs and to living labs, it's the point to have for clear examples and the contribution of our experts, panel speakers. As I was mentioning, Andra Tanaze, we have the pleasure of having her with us today. She's currently serving as Green and Digital Strategies and Skills and Future Competence Program Manager at Transylvania IT, as well as an independent consultant, trainer, and strategist on conflict transformation and education. Andra works on strategic program design, capacity building, policy making, and organizational development for mainly the perspective of collaborative leadership, innovation, and conflict transformation. Andra coordinates several projects at the Green Digital Insertion, such as Zero W, reducing food loss and waste, SPIRE, which uses phytomediation and EDIHs and local immaterial utility, or the GIL project, where we focus on gender smart innovation. And she's eager to engage with professionals who are there with vision, challenge, and passion, and think critically in order to inspire and be inspired to create impact and achieve sustainable growth at personal, community, and worldwide levels. So, Andra, this is the place where definitely you should be. So I would like to know more about your contribution to Living Lab methodology in the European Digital Innovation Hub at the Cluster Ecosystem Transylvania IT experience. So Andra, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope now you can see the screen. Can you confirm?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So thank you very much for the introduction, and there were so many things when invited, and again it's a pleasure to be here. I wrote in the profile, but it's something very true that we really engage with pleasure in the different ecosystems is the current word, or partnerships or families that we are part of, and this is very true. So it's really a pleasure, and when looking into how to connect the different concepts that are presented for this webinar, indeed, I was looking at the Living Lab methodology and the Digital Innovation Hub reality, and several of the things that you were mentioning were there. So today, I will try to connect this and to present the Transylvania IT experience, the Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub experience. And again, my name is Andra, and I work as a senior green and digital strategist. So what this means is that within Transylvania IT, my role is to engage mostly on the green and digital intersection projects, and also to embed in our activities this type of work. While introducing what I say, I must say that we are actually in a living lab environment right here. So I'm at the conference for a final project, Bowie, which is focusing on building corridors of collaboration and innovation across Europe. And this is mostly what we do. I'll start a little bit telling you who we are as Transylvania IT Cluster, who we are as Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub, and also Transylvania Living Lab. Because we are a little bit of everything in terms of these entities, and we work at the intersection of these methodologies, of these innovative approaches to building the future. So as Transylvania IT, we are a cluster, and we have more than 150 members, which are small and medium enterprises, and not only small and medium enterprises. Our membership includes representation of what you were saying, the quadruple helix. So we have research institutes, we work with universities, and also with the public sector. You see here where is our focus in the part of northwest of Romania, and of course the values to the right that we try to walk the talk. One important element is the fact that we are the main orchestrator or coordinator, but orchestrator sounds even better and more suggestive of what we're doing, of Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub. So that means that we work with a number of partners in creating the harmony of TEDIH, or Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub. Just a few words on the networks that we are part of and we enjoy very much working in. Of course, at the local level, with the local authorities, with I started hearing myself. So at the local level, with the other digital innovation hubs, and we are part of the National Association of Digital Innovation Hubs. At the national level, we work towards the digital transformation and the strategies with the National Council for Digital Transformation, and we're part of Consultative College for Research, Development and Innovation. Our European network includes a number of projects and entities, and definitely we're very happy to be part of the ENOL, the European Network of Living Labs. As Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub, which we have members here who are hacking live our presentation. We had a beautiful journey starting in 2017 when the first steps in the development of Transylvania EDIH were being taken. And of course, last year, we were selected for funding within the European Digital Innovation Hubs network. Parts of the elements of the Digital Innovation hub experience that connect with artificial intelligence and with data we see here, and I will present as examples of the projects that we have. We have here the vision and the main objective of the Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub, and basically is to offer a complete set of innovation and digital transformation services for SMEs and public sector organizations, mainly in the northwestern region of Romania, but of course not limited to Romania, and of course not limited even to our region. So not limited nationally. We are very interested in actually exploring, and we have this concept of corridors where real value added is through exchanges and good practices. Digital innovation hubs have four main types of services that are offered: networking and ecosystem building, test before invest, which is also the focus of today's webinar, and skills and training and support to find investment. Even if, let's say, one is the focus or another, these all come to a package. And in Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub, how we work with the SMEs and the public authorities that are our beneficiaries, we take them through a path of a set of services that come from each of these areas. The link between the Digital Innovation Hub and the Living Lab are obvious, and I think they were very well presented earlier, so I won't insist on it. But basically, the different technology and the aspect of test before invest and co-creation are key. In terms of our technologies, the technologies that we focus on in the Transylvania Digital Innovation Hub, we can mention that artificial intelligence, big data, and high-performance computing are our focus. And this is also linked with the examples that I'm going to provide. Now, if this was the presentation part, I would like to share with you three projects that would illustrate perhaps more in detail and more practically what we have been doing under the umbrella of Transylvania IT and Digital Innovation Hub, and using a lot of what Living Lab is. So involvement of different stakeholders, co-creation, having the test before invest aspect. And I would like here to mention that while test before invest is mainly focusing and often referred to in the SME sector, right, in the business sector, what we are also applying it to is to public authorities, because often before investing, before writing a project, you have a smaller project, you have a test, and we offer through the Digital Innovation Hub, through this project, also the option for authorities to test before invest. The Reflow project, which you see here, is a project focusing on circular economy. Cluj was one of the, let's say, experiments, case studies. And in Cluj, what we wanted to do is develop a platform to support urban energy monitoring and the co-creation of the city's energy and circularity transition. The very technical part, which was happening, was the installation of RF meters in one of the colleges, and these meters were taking data from the different parts, enabling better consumption, enabling data monitoring for the energy sector and for that specific locality, and also enabling a policy that can justify by data energy transition. The data gathered from the project was later feeding the reflow database, so the whole project database, and linked to various other data monitoring that enable circular transition. A second project that I wanted to share with you, and this one is ongoing, is Zero. And the Zero project is focusing on systemic innovations towards zero food waste supply chain. In this project, there are a number of living labs, and we as Transylvania IT are part of Living Lab number 1, which is creating a platform for food loss and waste monitoring and assessment. We are creating a platform not only here in Cluj, but also with our partners in Slovenia. And this platform basically is an open data platform that captures and assesses food loss and waste data throughout the supply chain. Now, I won't go too much into the details of the platform, but it enables user accounts. It enables consumers, producers, retailers to have an account and to enter data either manually or later on automatically, and this data to be processed and interpreted and used with recommenders. What we want these platforms to do is to have a better insight into where the problems arise and to allow interventions at critical stages of the value chain. The third project, well, actually, I will tell about 4, and this is it. But the third project is funded by Urban Innovative Action. It's called SPIRE, and it's implemented in Baia Mare in northern Romania. And what the SPIRE project still does, it's almost close to the end, but having innovative solutions that relate to phytoremediation, to EDIHs, and even introducing a local immaterial utility. It's not a coin, but it's a reward system that enables citizens who walk from home to their job, or students who walk from home to their office, to gain through an app this iLew, and with it to be able to use iLew either at a hub which was made through SPIRE project, or a selected number of companies which adopt iLew, or hopefully in the future, after we solve some of the bureaucratic issues, also to paying their taxes or accessing public services. Through EDIHs technology inspired by Amare, we gathered data regarding the plants which have the phytoremediation capacity, and this means their capacity to absorb heavy metals from the polluted land, and in this way to treat the soil. It's a process that takes many years, but it's also one of the groundbreaking technology which would enable a community like Baia Mare, where it was a very intense mining history, to transition into the green sense. So, of course, we gather data regarding the plants. We use artificial intelligence to predict trends, and also combine it with iLew and entrepreneurship. So if we talk about a living lab, a community approach, it's really something that plays along this line, the SPIRE project. And last but not least, a project that is more recent, Gendered Innovation Living Labs. Perhaps some of you may be familiar with it, is within the Enol family. And basically, this project is addressing gender and diversity blindness and enables organizations and to do cultural changes. And why perhaps I don't have that much data, or the project is still now being, the data and the living labs are being consolidated, and now we start working on these activities. I think this is a very important project to mention, because data on gender smart innovation can be something that be used, and can be something that addresses one of the challenges of artificial intelligence into the living lab and the EDIH. And this challenge, I think, which I want to conclude with, is the fact that we have data, we do experiments, we use artificial intelligence, but we need much more focus on the ethical aspects of it. And we have a drive for that, and we have a tendency to that. So we need to work even more on that, and that's what we are trying to do as well. Not only challenges, but also harnessing all the opportunities that come with projects, with having access to these methodologies, and having access to all these wonderful networks that we are part of. So thank you very much. I either can leave you with a quote from ChatGPT or a colleague of ours. I choose a colleague, and he was saying that data is the new oil. Well, our intelligence is definitely the eternal value that we can bring to our ecosystems. And thank you very much for having an opportunity to contribute with our experience to this event.
Andrea, thank you very much also for bringing along these examples. I'm definitely looking forward to meeting you this year also in the Open Living Lab Days in Barcelona. That definitely will be an excellent opportunity to exchange together and to show examples also to the SMEs, particularly in the session that we are going to have in the Test Before Invest. I know that you are involved into this event, and thank you very much for sharing that. But I don't want to leave you without just one little question that I think it's of much relevance. I would like to know your experience. One of the actions that some of the actions you are developing are affecting directly public administrations and also SMEs. Which is your experience regarding the approach that particularly the ecosystem of SMEs is having when being invited to participate in real life settings? And which are the barriers that you think that we can help to accelerate the integration of the SMEs in these processes from the experience that you are having in Transylvania?
I think is the siloing and the language barrier. And when I say language barrier, I do not mean English or Italian or Spanish or Chinese or any type of language, but rather the approach that we have towards collaboration. And this is why also in Transylvania IT, we are having an accent on networking and ecosystem building activities. Because at these activities, SMEs, public authorities meet each other and develop this common language. Co-creation is about developing something together. And this is our experience, that it happens. There is often still a long way. We are still at the moment where perhaps we have this, I mentioned I come from conflict transformation and peace building approach. So I do see tendencies of saying, okay, yes, but, or I present my perspectives, but, and that I present my perspectives. So I think that the challenge to be resolved is to really having co-creation and collaboration as a reflex, meaning that I'm coming here and I'm listening to your perspective. I'm eagerly and genuinely interested in learning about you, and we develop a vision together. So in that sense, this is, let's say, the perhaps more, I don't know if more metaphoric, because I think it's quite real. But otherwise, I would say that a real challenge is to have programs that support direct structurally and culturally. So basically, a direct support to an SME can be through funding, but also enabling the legal implementation of a solution. And if I go back to the example in Baia Mare, okay, we had funding, we developed this ILO tool, yet when it comes to paying taxes with it, we are prevented to do that, and it's a big headache because of the policies in place.
There is an element of regulatory learning around there.
Exactly. So that quadruple helix approach doesn't only mean that we have the actors around the same table or in a conference, but it means that we have the research, which coordinates with the policy, which coordinates with the funding, which coordinates with the business planning.
Really, we will speak with you for years, but we have also Giuseppe waiting for us. So thank you very much for your presentation, and definitely looking forward to meeting you very soon in the next Open updates, and keep on working on the link between Digital Innovation Hubs and Living Labs. Thank you, Andra.
Thank you.
So now we are moving, and from this, again, the picture that we are showing is that are very much identified also is these opportunities and needs from the user-centric approach towards this test before invest that allows for knowledge generation, new product services, product procurement, and regulatory adaptation. We have these 4 examples presented by Andra. We touched upon this regulatory adaptation, these regulatory learning approaches also. But now we'll have the chance to have a completely different perspective, or not that different, but in a completely different scenario, from Josep Maria Salonova Bagrano, associate researcher at CERT, the Hellenic Institute for Transport, who will introduce these pathways for facilitating this test before invest approach. Josep Maria is a transport engineer with more than 15 years now of experience in working in European funded projects. He holds a graduate diploma for the Polytechnic School of University of Catalonia, UPC, Department of Civil Engineer, and from 2008-2009, he acquired the master degree in design, organization, and management of transport systems of the Aristoteles University of Thessaloniki. In 2010-13, he conducted his PhD research in the Polytechnic School of the University of Catalonia with a dissertation modeling on taxi cab fleets in urban environments. So he's definitely an expert in mobility. He also holds a diploma in data science specialization at the Johns Hopkins University and was an associate researcher at the Hellenic Institute of Transport, the Center for Research and Technology, MELAS, where he leads the data analysis and modeling laboratory support the Thessaloniki Smart Mobility Living Lab. His expertise includes transport modeling, ITS, and cooperative ITS, operations, research for optimizing passenger and freight transport on data science. Josep Maria, we are really eager to know more about the implementation that you had from the perspective of the test before invest in the area of the mobility at CERT. Josep, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Fernando, for the good introduction. I will share my screen. You should see it now, right?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So thank you, of course, for inviting us to share our experience. I will give a brief insights on how we, as a research center, but as the leaders, organizers, hosters of a living lab, are facilitating the test before invest to the companies, to the private sector. So very brief about us. We are at the Hellenic Institute of Transport. We are part of the larger Center for Research and Technology, HELAS, one of the largest institutions in Greece and one of the first ones in funds raising from European funded projects. We work exclusively with mobility. We are a little bit more than 20 years old. And just a few insights that we are a member of ENOL. At the moment that we joined ENOL, Fernando was the president, I remember. We are leading today the mobility working group. So we are talking to many mobility living labs in Europe. Second, we are core member of the EIT on urban mobility, which is highly related to this discussion because it's one of the mechanisms of the European Commission coming to the last part of the chain. So they are putting everything, the results from the projects in our streets. They are very oriented to market and to real product development, not development, expansion in our cities. And we're coordinating the risk hub in Greece. So we're facilitating the companies to access to the funds and the opportunities of the EIT on urban mobility. And last insight is that we are moderating the smart mobility and logistics solutions cluster. So we put together all companies in Greece, most of the companies working in mobility, and we are moderating the discussion within the cluster in which we are transferring technology, we are having different opportunities. So these three identities are the ones that are supporting what we will present today and are facilitating us in supporting companies and the industry. So about our living lab, it's more or less 10 years old, and it started highly technologically. So it started with the ecosystem of the mobility in the city, putting all the data together, and we were responsible to collect, analyze all this data, create value, extract knowledge and information, give it back to the ecosystem, give it back to the society, and of course, making it available to companies, to universities, to academia, to public sector bodies, institutions, to develop technological solutions and services. So this is how we started, and after 10 years, we are quite happy with what we have and the number of projects and everything we are having in Thessaloniki. The data is for passenger and freight transport. We are growing, so it's not anymore about mobility only. We are having also energy, environmental data, and we are covering the city, but also the surroundings area of the city. About our capabilities, and this is in line with the discussion we're having today, is about big data and AI tools to analyze, model, and visualize this data, is about OR tools to optimize the systems in the city, is about decision support systems, digital twins, and of course, we are hosting an open data portal. We are also the creators of the National Access Point. So we are opening many data sets to society in Greece and abroad. Our solutions, I will not go through all of them, but we work a lot in machine learning, AI algorithms to predict different kind of metrics, different kind of variables we are dealing with. We can model passenger transport and logistics operations in our models. Some of them are more traditional transport modeling. Others are more dynamic models of different systems. We have simulation software, which is very, very useful in supporting cities and companies, as you will see. And we have our algorithms that can optimize any kind of process in transport and mobility, routing, fleet management, rebalancing, clustering, and everything. So I will talk you today about three pathways that we see that we execute. The one is that ourselves, we create projects in which we develop proof of concepts of different solutions, different services, different ideas, usually in small scale implementations. And we can share these results with the local and the national ecosystem through different channels. One of them is the cluster. I already told you. The cluster is supported by national funds, so this facilitates everything. We are having national and regional funds supporting the technology transfer to companies. So it's a project with a company, a research center, and the company will have a product supported by the know-how of the technology of the research center. So this is the first part. We have our know-how and our technology knowledge. We transfer it to the companies in different ways. Second, we can facilitate these companies to come to our living lab and test their solutions or test their ideas. Then we talk about a larger scale if needed, or if not, it can be a shorter scale, different scope, and we can support them in analyzing what happens. So we have all this data ecosystem, so we can analyze if it works as expected, if it's working as expected, it has good results or not, if it should be improved. So this is very important for them. We can find the participant, we can find the vehicles, we can integrate all the systems with the traffic lights, with the taxi company, with the buses. We can bring all the ecosystem participants. So it could be kind of Living Lab as a service provided to companies. The third way is maybe it's not in the same direction of the other two. It's not straightforward to test before invest, but it's needed. We are creating two kind of assets, the digital twin and a set of decision support tools. Both are needed to help public authorities, but also private companies into designing how they plan, or into planning directly, or how they will operate the systems. So we can give decision support system to the cities so they will understand how they should introduce electric scooters. So we are again helping the test before invest, but to the public authority, which is giving the legal framework, how these electric scooters will work. Or we can have a digital twin to test a new traffic management lights algorithm, or to test a new fleet management service. So this digital testing is, of course, as good for the testing before invest. You can have scalability issues, you can have fine-tune, you can test different scenarios. It's much more flexible than real life. And now, very brief examples on these three kind of supports we're giving to the cities. So in the first one, here you can see our suite of algorithms. We have routing, fleet management, clustering algorithms, asset rebalancing algorithms. All these algorithms are helping on-demand mobility, share mobility, service and operators to operate their system. We have also estimators of traffic status, the demand, the time of arrival, taxi trips, and we can also gather data from social media to estimate potential taxi customers. So all this suite of algorithms and services, basic services, I would say, are available to the cluster. On the right, you can see all the companies in the cluster. And we created an architecture in which there is one unique platform that all these companies can connect to. They were giving us their data, so we are enriching our data, and we're giving back all these services to them. So we're having APIs in which they can use a demand prediction, a rebalancing service, a multimodal route planner, an on-demand service creator, and everything. So they are giving data and they are receiving back all these services, so they can improve what they are offering to the citizens. They can test something. We can create tests in the city with this connection before going to the market, of course. The second example is one of these projects in which there is a technology transfer of knowledge from the research center to a company. It's a project in which the bike sharing company came to us and they wanted to refresh everything, the operation, the dashboard, the fleet management, the app. So we create for them a dashboard in which they could see the different indicators of the bikes, of the users. They can predict demand, they can see the rebalancing needs, so they can execute them. They can communicate to the users. So we create the whole platform so they can manage their fleet. We create an app in which we applied some gamification skills, concepts, so the people would use the app and would be more engaged with biking. So this is the way in which one company with a research center, we can create something better, we can test it, we can pilot it, and then the company decides, okay, I will go for the full scale implementation, and I will improve my product. In the second category, which is offering the Living Lab environment for testing. Here it was one company that they were having Bluetooth detectors, and we wanted to see what to do with them. So we create a service in which we locate all these Bluetooth detectors in different locations of the city. We can estimate travel time of people passing through two locations, not people, devices, but usually these devices will be on the people. It can be a smartwatch, it can be a car, it can be a mobile phone. And we started with 10, we ended up with close to 50 intersections being equipped. So we are monitoring, tracking different devices in the city. So we are creating this travel time estimation in real time. And this ends up on a commercial product by this company. Second example, it was the taxi association asking us that we want to have a service in which maybe we can share a taxi, so we can attract people that are using a car today by making the taxi cheaper. And we had a project and a pilot of 11 months in which we had 50 people using this service every day. They were very happy and they were sharing the cost. So we took out 50 cars from the city center and used it was just 12-15 taxis to do the job, and they were really happy. The only pity is that this pilot ends early 2020 with COVID, and we never catch up. But it was going to be a commercial application. Everyone was very happy. We need to, now that COVID is over, it seems, we need to catch up and go back again to this service. And the last of the three is supporting cities, mostly public authorities, but also private, with digital twin capabilities, but also with decision support systems. Here you see on the left, these are our modeling capabilities in software. We have AIMSAN, we have PTB, we have Sumo, we have MATLAB. On the right, these are all the networks we have created. So we are creating different levels of network, different scales and geographies of networks, and we can give access, or we can help companies testing. It can be a cooperative service willing to be tested along the main arterial. We can do it in the digital world. We can test it. We can fine tune. We can understand if it works, if it does not work, why it does not work. You need more spacing within traffic light. You need less spacing. You need more lanes. So this is very good to create knowledge for the company about their products before going to the market, so they can fine tune them very well. Digital twins. We are having one on freight transport in which we are testing our own fleet management services, but any company can come to us and say, I want to test in your digital twin my fleet management services, my expected time of arrival estimator, my rebalancing, any kind of algorithm. We can test it and we can improve it. We can extract what are the expected impacts and everything. And the final example, this is a decision support system we created for the city of Thessaloniki, in which we are telling to them, okay, you need a legal framework for the bike sharing and e-scooter sharing system. Let's create stops, stands for these vehicles, but how many? Where? So in the decision support system, we're telling to them the optimal value is 22 stations, 17 dogs per stations, and 183 bicycles. So this is the optimum mathematically. This means that it will cost 700,000 euros per year, which most of them are for the users, which are time costs. This is the whole cost, it's not just the monetary cost. And for the operator, less than 200,000 euros. With this service, you can expect less than 2 minutes waiting time and less than 3.3 minutes access time. But we also create this graph on the right that they can navigate and say, okay, what happens if I do more stations? Not 22, but 40 and less dogs. So they can negotiate with the ecosystem, and this is part of the co-design. So they can go through this graph and say, okay, I can accept a more expensive system, but I want to reduce the waiting time, the working time. So these tools are giving visual graphs and solutions to stimulate co-design, co-creation. And once we have decided the number of stations, we can find them. So you want 25, these are the 25 best locations for your network. So closing my presentation, this is after 10 years what our Living Lab is about. We have 4 pillars: from data to knowledge. This is the main one, in which we can aggregate data. We are supporting data spaces. We have our simulation environments. We have dedicated resources. We are having a competence center giving support with large infrastructure and assets to the ecosystem. Decision theater, we are helping people, citizens, authorities, companies to decide what is best for these system solutions live. testbeds, we can create dedicated testbeds within the Living Lab. We facilitate innovation. We have the cluster, we have the regional hub I mentioned, we have the digital twin, we have all these toolboxes that can facilitate innovation. And of course, it's about social innovation. So we're having open data. Some of the codes we're using open code, open source codes. Cross collaboration, we are going to energy, we're going to environment, we're trying to see the whole picture with the city, and we are speeding up the transition of our cities. So it's an infrastructure to accelerate transition, and is supporting open innovation communities, ecosystems as the one we have in Thessaloniki. And closing, we are supporting THES in Tech. It will happen in the next years, and it's an initiative which will create a new center. You see the picture, this is simulated, and we will attract investors from all the world in different mega projects. One of them is about future mobility applications. So the next step for us is this mega project on mobility, in which we will attract companies to come here to develop, to test, to improve their services. So this was very brief insights on what we do in Thessaloniki in the Living Lab, Mobility Living Lab.
Thank you very much, Josep, also for the brief but very dense explanation of the activities that you have been developing in the Living Lab. I was taking a lot of notes that probably we'll have afterwards the time to discuss, but I would like to focus now in one of the components that you identified, which is the digital twin. That particularly for the topic of mobility, I think that it is becoming essential nowadays for decision making and planning. I will try to, since we are focusing a bit also on the SMEs, I will try would like to know your experience in this area, because digital twins probably are widely or identified into the public administration, but I'm curious to know to what extent the SMEs are perceiving the digital twin also as a tool for helping in the innovation process beyond the planning that public administrations can have. Which is your perception about this? Maybe we will have the time to enter more in detail afterwards, but just to have an approach to it.
A very fast reaction, Fernando, to your question. Yes, they see the value, but I think they are still not ready, because a digital twin as of today is still quite close to our modeling. So we need to convince them that the digital twin can help you, but also at the same time they should have the capacity to deal with the digital twin, because we are the user of the digital twin. They do not feel that is something that they can exploit. So I think that at the moment that they can take it and use it, they will change the mindset. But for the moment, it's like a model, but it's called digital twin. So
this is very, very interesting, because probably there is room here for public administrations through the digital innovation hubs to support the integration of the SMEs into digital twin approaches. You were mentioning also Living Lab as a service. Well, we will have the time definitely to talk about later, but thank you very much for opening so many doors now for the discussion.
One addition, I think the value of a digital twin is that the public administration can tell to 3 companies, I want your system. In order to assess the best one, put it on my digital twin, show me the numbers, and then I can take a decision based on real facts. So this is a good way to proceed.
I understand. This is like a normalization factor, homogenization factor to evidence-based decisions, right?
Exactly.
In a common framework for all. Good. Thank you very much, Giuseppe. Please don't go. We will have the time to go on with different questions afterwards. And now let me share again my screen, because we are going forward again. Same aspect that we have been discussing now. Test before invest. We introduced this Living Lab as a service approach for SMEs. We also included these digital twins as the let's say homogenizing or homogenator or regularizator. Could be explained from different perspectives, but that in some way it's creating a fair common analysis, right, for the different products that can be tested from the digital perspective, and definitely also in order to advance in planning, but also the cost and time optimization. So these new products and services that are provided by industry and the SMEs can in some way be replicated and compared. So there's this comparability approach and this common assessment before the final investment in order for the product development. So thank you very much. I would like now to, you already know me. I would not spend time into my introduction. For those who were not present before, I'm Associate Director of the Computer Vision Center at Barcelona, Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona in Spain. And teaching machine learning, robotics, and open innovation, and I have the chance and the pleasure and honor of being the former president of the European Network of Living Labs, now belonging to its executive board. I'm very much interested in one of the things that Giuseppe was mentioning, which is the social impact, social innovation of artificial intelligence and the development of the role of the Living Labs as regulatory learning tools. This is one dimension that also was mentioned together with Andrade in the previous approach. So I would like to share with you an experience that we are developing together with the Digital Innovation Hub in Catalonia, particularly the artificial intelligence node, together with our colleagues of EUROCAT. So it is a multi-stakeholder solution for territorial challenges. First of all, I would like to share with you that from a number of years, we're having a strategy, which is the Catalonia.ai strategy that will be promoted as a sharing, a testing environment, defining AI labs, right? So AI labs are defined into this strategy. You can download it and in the internet as well. AI labs are identified as promoting and sharing and testing environment that must be a window to open to ideas and initiatives from everywhere that are collected and cataloged. Social innovation from the people and for the people. So it's this 4-helix approach is already identified in the political strategical approach of Catalonia.ai. And then this objective of these AI labs is twofold: to promote the technological sector by offering access to infrastructures and equipment, and on the other hand, to promote open innovation with companies and public administration to participate in pilot tests. So with this approach, we have been developing together with the Center of Innovation in Data Tech and Artificial Intelligence, which is the node of artificial intelligence of the European Digital Innovation Hub in Catalonia, the Digital Innovation Hub for CAT. We are having a number of access of core technologies. One of those is artificial intelligence, and TDI is the node collecting that, organized both by the Computer Vision Center and the EuroCAT. So here we had two specific tasks, and I want to share you the methodological approach in order to develop this concept of AI labs in the territory. For that, what we have been doing is first to identify a list of agreed features that an AI lab should have. And this would have been happening through the last 2 years. And then we have an initial mapping of the territory in order to collect information and to understand to what extent these initiatives, such as those informed by Andra and Giuseppe in the previous presentation, were available. From this perspective, what we had is defining a number of basic features that AI labs in the territory should have. They should be open labs, accessible to the ecosystem. From the perspective of the Digital Innovation Hub approach, they should have the room for the test before invest for AI-based solutions. So they are expected to be including the injection of solutions in the territory that will serve as a maturity of technology elevator. TRL is the indicator of the level of maturity from inception to a product, passing through a demonstrator or a prototype, etc. So it allows for the elevation of the maturity of the current solutions and the accessibility of real-life settings for testing. So these are the basic approaches that are very much aligned with the Living Lab approach. And what is not an AI lab, at least from the CDI perspective, from the perspective of the Digital Innovation Hub? So it's not a research group that does research, which is not accessible to the ecosystem, that does not allow the test before in the best. So these type of labs are already valuable, and they are very much valuable for the Catalan ecosystem and our Catalan research institutes on AI, and are mapped on other work package of our digital innovation hub. And alive inside a company that it is not open to the stakeholders is not expected to be an AI labs. So with this approach, we are having a more reduced, though general, definition about what are we expecting to be an AI lab. We have a potential number of examples from sectoral stratification. For instance, Interiors Living Lab is working together. It is a cluster that is working together and have been evolving with a number of members in the area of interiors, in the area of furniture, right? And placed in the south of Catalonia. And that is including the approach of Living Lab into the specific concept of industrial cluster. We are identified also in the area of art. Sonar, this is a music, let's say, a festival in which there is a specific Sonar Plus D, where creativity, technology, and other innovation actions are happening in the real life scenario. So we're having also the Kids Living Labs. Kids Living Labs is aiming at developing this concept of cluster also for the toy industry. And we also identify that in the public sector, this is much less, this is a lot missing. So we didn't identify any clear aspect, and this is one of the reasons why the Digital Innovation Hub can help also to develop these approaches. So from the research and technology centers, we also identified a number of actions from different members. The Computer Vision Center have been developing the Library Living Lab and also working in the Mobility Living Lab. We are having our autonomous car that is driving now through the UAB campus and aiming at having the campus as an infrastructure for testing and validation of technologies. I2CAT also have been developing a collaboratory approach in the south of Catalonia. We have another institution such as LEIETAT, which is developing healthcare living lab for Catalonia, which SMEs can provide their technologies into real life hospitals. So this means that both with the definition of the basic features and also with potential examples of already existing infrastructures, and this is very much important, already existing networks of infrastructures, we can develop a methodological approach in order to develop the Catalonian AI labs, in order to inject AI lab in the territory by using the existing networks. In our case, we identified 3 specific networks. There could be more, but it's one of those networks of connections are the shared agenda. Shared agendas is one of the components of the smart specialization agenda of Catalonia. These industrial clusters are those that I mentioned before. They have their own partners and SMEs connected among them. And then we're having the super labs or collaboratories, which are also connected through an action of the Catalan government. So they are already existing, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We should use probably what we already have in order to develop actions in order to inject AI industry, to connect the AI industry into a number of actors that we are having here that could develop this AI lab, right? So in this case, we identified as a shared agenda biolab Ponent, which is in the western part of Catalonia, in which we could develop or investigate how AI could feed the agri-food sector. In the case of the interiors, furniture, we could investigate how tourism could be benefited from the injection of AI lab. And in terms of the CAT-SUD collaboratory, we identified how energy could benefit the energy transformation, since they are developing this energy transition from oil to green hydrogen, how AI lab could benefit from that. So this was the methodological approach to identifying the opportunities. Remember that opportunities were one of the elements of relevance, right, in the scoping of a Living Lab approach. Then we identify one specific example that could work in this area. So how is this AI lab, or which would be the expected outcome of injecting artificial intelligence through the Digital Innovation Hub in a specific sector? So we were aiming at developing a project of high impact, which is a prototype, to develop a project of high impact, a prototype, particularly in the rural area. We identified if we could inject this approach, probably we could do it from two different perspectives. The first one, together with the industry and the agri-food sector, and the other one is together the AI industry and the public administration. In the case of the AI industry, it was expected to develop a TRL elevator action, which means we are going to try and develop a technology provided by the members of the Digital Innovation Hub consortia that also attracts AI industry in order to increase the level of maturity of a specific solution. And here we are identifying a number of actions using drones for precision agriculture. In the case also of the public administration, we were identifying a number of missing actions that we were having. For instance, different partners have been the Federation of Cooperatives for the agri-food sector that were collecting data for the public administration as well. So we could use this specific action in order to have a private public procurement action. So the outcome of this AI lab would be twofold. On the one hand, that associated to the specific prototype of artificial intelligence to the agri-food sector, or on the other one, the sustainability of the ecosystem from the perspective of an organizational level. This is important because with this approach of the design that we are now developing, we can identify three different phases in order to implement AI lab, in order to implement a living lab for the case of artificial intelligence. And this is the way in which we have been doing that, and this could be replicable. And this is the interest of this presentation, that we are providing like a specific methodological approach in order to create this first quadruple helix multiple stakeholder approach for a living lab. The first phase is the preparation, the second phase is design, and the third phase is implementation. Just as a number of calendarization, this could be implemented in a number of 12 months, so 1 year. In the first phase, we are having this identification of the context of the shared agendas, meaning which is what we already have. Then we probe the interest, we identify the alpha users of our ecosystems, which are those that probably will be very much willing to participate with us. Not all the stakeholders have the same level of involvement or willing for the involvement. Then we have the project of high impact, the PIPE, project of alto impacta, project of high impact, identifying the budget and the resources needing. Then the fourth action in the preparation is the mapping of the AI capacities that all the members of the Digital Innovation Hub can support the ecosystem with, and then a joint identification of long, mid, and short-term challenges. These mid, long, and short-term challenges are challenges from the territory. So once we have identified the stakeholders in the territory, it's the members of the territory who are exposing us, which are the challenges of the particular industry, in this case, the agri-food sector. So this is the first stage, basically 3 months. So then we are having for the phase of design. The phase of design, from a methodological approach, goes from the proposal of implementation of a project, an actual project that could be around 6 months. So then we have an action for the identification of the IP management, since we are going to have shared IP management. Then the definition of paths for local and supralocal funding, meaning that if we aim at having a continuous collaboration, the initial, let's say, injection from the Digital Innovation Hub should be then, let's say, contributed with other types of funding in order to make it sustainable. Then there is a very important section, which is the definition of the governance of the AI lab. We are having a 4 helix approach, and we have to identify which is the role of each, to agree with which is the role of each of the participants, and also their commitments. And once we are doing that, we have an identification of the early adopters. The early adopters is when we are having this solution implemented, let's say drones for precision agriculture, which are the farms in which we can implement those specific actions. Then we have the definition of paths for public procurement together with the public administration in order to understand to what extent we can have joint actions in order to get this new funding. Then the definition of paths for private investment, understanding which are the eventual open doors that we are having for the future when we are having also this system working, and then the agreement of a real life testing agenda. This means that once we are having this governance model defined and also the roadmap for public investment, potential future investment, then we can start doing things. Because we are having, in some way, let's say, the basis underpinning the actions. And then this arrives to a document, which is the stakeholder agreement. Once that this happens, and this is probably happening in 2 months, what we are then we have the implementation. The implementation is the technological development. We have all the agreements, the non-disclosure agreements, etc. So we can start recording, getting the videos. We can, in this case, we can have getting the data, sharing the data. Then we have to identify the identification of to develop the identification of a sustainable business model, because this is one of the things that should be out of the Living Lab, a business model and a sustainability model for the results. Otherwise, it's yet another test. Then we define the real life testing methodology, the identification of potential investors in the line of the definition of the pathways defined in S7. Then implementation of the public procurement actions that have been identified before, and then the evaluation of impact of the action. So with that, what we are having is actually 2 outcomes. The first outcome is a system of artificial intelligence, let's say a GitHub, a software tool, and the second outcome is a business model, a roadmap in order to implement this action. So this is the methodological approach that we are having to share with you, and probably in the future Open Living Lab Days in Barcelona, we will have the final results of implementation with all the details. Sorry for not opening all the details, only the methodological action, because we are ready to publish them now. So with this approach, what we are having is not only, let's say, examples of doing things or actions that we can do, but also a methodological framework so that every person willing or institution willing to implement this 4-helix approach can have a preparation, a design, and implementation in 1 year time in order to develop their testing. And this is just one approach to do that. There are probably many ways of doing this, and but I think it was very interesting just to share with you these 3 phases: preparation, design, and implementation. Okay, good. So with that, I think that we can have now give the time for open debate, and probably to have the chance to also to interact with our colleagues. I have a number of questions and comments. So please, if you are willing also to contribute with your own questions and comments, please let me know. Write them down into the into the chat, and Odd will share it with us. Okay, so from all the notes that I have had here, there is an element that maybe we did not discuss in depth, and Josep, probably I would like to start with you, which is the Living Lab as a service. To what extent is the approach of Living Lab as a service implemented in your area? I don't know if Andres is still with us, because this is a question that I would also like to address to her. To what extent can we provide the Living Lab approach as something that can be shared together with our companies, and something that they can also suggest in order to tackle one specific challenge that they are having? What is your experience, Josep?
I would say that it's important to see the scale, and I need to credit the JRC at ISPRA, because they are the ones doing this. In fact, I think any living lab is a living lab as a service for the local community, so the companies can test. But in the EC in ISPRA, they make it on a larger scale. So the JRC is offering the area, the population, they have their workers in the city, the facilities, and they have an open call. So any company can tell to them, I want to test this in your area with your population, with your technologies. So I should credit JRC for this concept at a broader scale. But of course, the living lab is a kind of infrastructure composed of an ecosystem, some systems integrated or not. So you can facilitate a lot to the companies to test. You can put them in contact with 2 or 3 members of the ecosystem, with the public administration. You have access to the population that will be testing. You have technologies. You have the data sensors. So it's a facilitator for the companies, and of course it could be part of a service. So we know testbeds. Testbeds happens before, not before living labs, but they're highly technological testbeds. Come to my testbed and you can test your car with these sensors and everything. But in our case, we are offering a real environment with real citizens. So it's another kind of offer, but still it could be as a service. And one of the main pain points of living labs is the funding. So a few living labs, I think they have take 1 million and do a living lab. So you are trying to make it be alive from projects, from putting a large puzzle of micro fundings. So living lab as a service, it would help in having this funding to make it self-sustainable, of course.
You mentioned something that I find probably one of the questions that we are having more often, which is how do you are in this concept of living lab as a service, right? So we are offering a real life scenario with citizens. How are citizens contacted or engaged? Which are the strategies that you are following your specific living lab?
This for Thessaloniki is one of our most tricky aspects, because some of the services you don't need their active participation. You are having a new traffic management center. You don't need anyone to be an active tester. Everyone is testing the service. But in some services that you need a sample population, you need to contact them. I had the example with the taxi sharing service. We needed to contact people. People were very reluctant to it. We started with 12 people, but we are happy because they became ambassadors of the project, and they were inviting co-workers, family, friends, and we end up with 50. So for the citizens, I would say that you need 2 things. You need to reach them. For this, you can use municipalities. They have events. They have the channels to the citizens, but you need to convince them. And for it, you need one chance. So if you can have them with you and you can convince them, because at least in Greece, I have seen that many citizens are not against, but they have a negative feeling about these projects. They know that many millions of euros in projects, they end in nothing. They feel that they did nothing because for them end in nothing. And we know that this is how it happens, that a small percentage of the investment will end in something good. So you start from a quite negative point, that they know that this is only money for politicians or money for systems, and you will switch it off. This was the main issue, that they know that we end the project, we switch it off, and a 1 million service system, it's switched off because the project ends. So you start from below zero, but if you can convince them that what you're doing is good for them, then they become ambassadors of you. And the word of mouth, it will help have more people. You can also go to associations. We work with associations of pedestrians, associations of cyclists. cyclists is a collectivity that they are very interested in any way to improve their life. So you can also go to the associations that they will find the right people that will have a good knowledge to help you in doing your project and the access. But I think that the most important is to reach people and to convince them. Then if you convince them, everything goes smooth.
You have mentioned this element also, which is a value proposition for the Living Labs, that by participating in the process, the user becomes an ambassador of the action as well. And this is something that sometimes it's not well identified into the Living Labs community, but very much important. Definitely, when there is, for an SME, there is the positioning of a product, of a new service. So I find it very, very interesting. You also mentioned in your previous presentation, Giuseppe, that there is another benefit that the Living Lab can provide, which is the reduction in cost, the reduction in time, the optimization for planning as well. I understand that this that applies for SMEs applies also for, we were mentioning in the previous chart, the possibility of developing private public procurements, right? That joins SMEs together with the public administration. I understand that in this approach, for instance, when we are having an innovative solution, right, and the innovative procurement, Living Labs could be a very good way of implementing this, since as a matter of fact, what we are in some way having is the possibility of having the public administration and also the private companies working in a real life settings with an innovative solution. So this is basically the definition of the private innovative procurement. Do you have any examples regarding this?
Yeah, I don't remember the name. I always forgot it, and I was impressed about a kind of doing procurements, which is not that I have the full procurement, 10 companies come to it and I select. They create and evolve the procurement with the companies. So they have one part of the procurement, few companies come to it, they submit, they select 3 or 4 of them, and based on that architecture of the solution, they go to the next step. So I don't remember the name, but it exists, this step-by-step procurement, which is a kind of co-creation with the company. So give me your architecture, I will select the best 3, and then I will go to the next part of the procurement with the sensors. So I don't remember the name, but this was really interesting. It's time consuming a lot. It's not just to do an offer, but it helps the city, because many times cities, when they want to procure, they know nothing. They don't know the technology. So it helps them to be aware of the alternatives, of the solutions, of the technologies. And I like it a lot, this approach. So they procure in different steps, and the companies are involved in the different steps of the procurement. Only one, I think, gets the price, but they are being paid in the middle. So it's quite complex, but I think it's quite efficient as well.
It is. I don't know if we are having any other question or comment from the people in attending the webinar. Please let us know. Don't be shy if you're having any other comment or any other question that would like to share with our participants. I have another question in the context of the Living in.eu initiative, in which citizen-centric approach is that much relevant. And as a political declaration, I perceive that the role of Living Labs in the specific context of urban innovation, and let us talk now about mobility. That is your field of expertise, right? How do you perceive at an European level this transformation of the urban policies at a general level? Now you are very much expert in the area of Thessaloniki, but eventually this is something that it is not only happening in Thessaloniki. There is a huge transformation at the European level about how mobility will be developing. So how do you perceive the adoption of the Living Lab approach of the citizen-centric innovation in the European framework, in the specific context of mobility? Maybe from the working group that we have in coordinating in ENOL, you're having some insights regarding that.
Okay, I will give you a more positive and a less positive answer to it. We are having the sustainable urban mobility plans. This is by law. In any city, I think with more than 50,000 inhabitants, they should have this plan. This is called a SAMP. Now they are doing the SULP, which is the Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan. This is very good because the European Commission has it as a prerequisite. If you want to get funding, show us your SAMP. SAMP, I think it's the guidelines came from ELTIS, I think 5 years ago, so it was more than 5 years ago. And they tried to put this co-creation feeling of the living labs into it, having not staying at the participatory approach. So in the SAMP, you are having public presentations. In the SAMP, you are defining the policy for the next 10, 20, 30 years in your city. What are the interventions? I would do this pedestrianization. I would support electromobility. I would support shared mobility. But everything, it's a circular step in which you are having modeling, you are assessing scenarios, you are presenting these scenarios. So you are somehow validating them with the relevant stakeholders. Of course, citizens are invited to them. So they tried to move from a participatory approach to a more co-creation living lab solution. So this is good that all cities have the roadmap for mobility, which is the SAMP and the SULP. And this roadmap has been somehow co-created with the whole ecosystem. So this is positive. So, and they are asking this roadmap, so all cities are working on it. Without this roadmap, you cannot have funding, you cannot go to the proposals. This is very good because when you are having a proposal, an idea, something, you have the roadmap. So let's see what is in our roadmap. So you are implementing a long-term vision. This is very good. The less positive aspect, I would say that living labs have been added to many topics. So in the past, they were asking 4 cities. Now they ask 4 cities with living labs or 4 living labs. And at some moment, everyone has a living lab. So it's something that it cannot be measured. It cannot be, and all is having a labeling. But no one can tell to a city if you are not labeled by ENOL, you are not a living lab. So it's kind between self assessment and subjective if you have a living lab or not. In fact, living labs, there is not one definition of living lab which is strict. Living labs have different features, and you can have some of them. You can have less features, but